The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As y'all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this college football season. We'll be using their lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for all of you each week. Now, when you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use bonus code HARDCOUNT, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code HARDCOUNT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code HARDCOUNT when you sign up. Let's make this college football season 1 for the books. Let's make it legendary. Let's get to the show. Welcome into the Hard Count. We are on the doorstep of a tremendous week 5 of the college football season, man. A lot to unpack on today's episode, but as always, the Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. A return to the program today, the Hard Count Herald. If you're a college football sicko, you've been dialed into the show for some time, so you already know the Hard Count Herald. But if you're unfamiliar with that, just make sure to subscribe right here to the On the YouTube channel, College Football, and nothing but college football, when they're playing games and when they're not. But I want to start with a staple, if you will, to this point in the college football season for us on this show, and that is what is being missed heading into week 5 of the college football season, specifically now in the game that's about to happen betwixt the hedges in Alabama going to Georgia. Couple things to unpack for both sides. For Alabama, I want to stress this very clearly because we keep viewing Alabama, I think, through the prism of what happened week 1 against Florida State. And I understand that you have to account for that with this Alabama team. It'd be irresponsible to not at least mention what happened to them in Doak Campbell Stadium. It was not a good look. But I think it needs to be said out loud. What's being missed is that this team that was in Tallahassee in week 1 is a very different team right now that's about to go to Athens, Georgia. Ty Simpson, since that game, has looked more confident, has looked to be more definitive with the decisions he's making. He is throwing seeds down the seam to Jeremy Bernard. He's standing in there and taking shots to the chin while he delivers a dime to Ryan Williams. This team in general just looks to have taken that Florida State game and made the proper adjustments internally from a urgency standpoint, intentionality standpoint, all those cliches, and look to be playing better football. Now, you're saying, JD, that's great, but you got to prove it, right, against Georgia. 100% true. What I think is also being missed relative to Alabama, if you don't trust the parts of this football team that looked lackluster against Florida State, all the things I just mentioned, the culture and the offensive acumen, all those things, this is kind of a spot here for Alabama. We're going to get to look under the hood a little bit because if you don't have those things fixed culturally, it's going to show up against Georgia. Like, if you can't get up for the Georgia game, then what's going on with your football team, period, is, I guess, my big question here. Now, if you go out and meet that moment against Georgia, if you go bring your best to the table, if you go ball out with the lights a bit brighter, since they have been since week 1 of the college football season, then we say, okay, Bama is sort of who we thought they were to start the year, super talented. We think they're more capable at quarterback. We like the offensive direction of Ryan Grubb. They just need a little bit of that performance improvement plan, all right? Need a little bit of sense of urgency, need to maybe taste their own blood a little bit against Florida State. And if that's the case now, we look at Alabama, I think, very differently going forward. So what's not being said going into this game around Bama, 1, not the same team we saw against Florida State, in my opinion, because of all the things I said with Ty Simpson, because of the violence they're playing with on defense. And more importantly, if it's not the team that we thought it would be going into the year, we find out in this game against Georgia, all right? Now, for Georgia, what I don't think is being mentioned nearly enough, this offense might just be good. Like they go out against Tennessee and they go for 44 points, and it wasn't just the fact they went for 44. It was the way they did that against Tennessee was exactly in line with all the questions we had about them going into the year. What were the questions? Mike Bobo, I don't know. Again, not us so much on this show, but like the college football public, especially the Georgia public, was not a big fan of Mike Bobo. Called a game and a half against one of the better defensive coordinators in the SEC, and Tim Banks. Well, what's Gunner Stockton going to look like? We know he's gritty. We know he can take a shot to the head and be okay a couple plays later. That's good for him. However, what is he pushing the ball downfield? Because we just lost, potentially now, a first-round caliber kind of arm at quarterback in Carson Beck over to Miami. What's Gunner Stockton bringing to the table? Went for over 300 yards against Tennessee. So that's great. But if Georgia goes out and does it again against that talented secondary, against that defense, their second year under Kane Womack with a ton of production back from the year before, then I think it's pretty safe to say, okay, Georgia offensively, yeah, the defense maybe still has some strides they have to take based on the Tennessee game, but if Georgia can score like that and Gunner Stockton can throw like that, okay, Georgia's going to be a team to deal with offensively going forward throughout the rest of the college football season. We think about Georgia, and you think about those teams in 21 and 22 that had all those first-round picks on defense, and you think about game control, you think about line of scrimmage, but like if they're scoring like they're scoring against Tennessee, against everybody else the rest of the season, if they do it against Bama, okay, this offense is just good. The offense is just good, and that pretty much should be said. If it happens twice, you can trust it. Right? If you go to a restaurant twice and get a good meal twice, it's a good restaurant. You have a second date that goes well, okay, there's chemistry. If Georgia scores against Bama and looks good against two SEC opponents, you can trust it. So what's being missed, to recap it here, the Georgia offense might just be good, and I don't think that's being talked about nearly enough. And Alabama, we keep going back to the Florida State game. That's fair, but I don't think that it should be the end-all, be-all when we break down this game against Georgia. So I'm excited for that one. I know you are too, and we will be locked and loaded here ahead of that one on this show, The Hard Count. So make sure you're subscribed. We'll have a reaction for you after that game on Sunday morning, as we will for a bunch of games across the college football slate. But I want to make sure we talk about this before we look to week 5 of the college football season. A team that has a bye this week is Oklahoma, and thank goodness for that, because John Mateer, as of Wednesday morning, had to get surgery on his throwing hand, dinged up his hand against Auburn. The report is at a Sooner Scoop, the Oklahoma On 3 site, best in the business. He is potentially now going to miss 3 or more weeks. So you look at the schedule for Oklahoma. You got a bye this week, like we just mentioned. Okay, that's great. Kent State, and then the third week, relative to this whole hand situation off of that surgery, is Texas. Then you go to South Carolina, then you play Ole Miss. So I guess the question, if you're an Oklahoma fan, is, hey, how cooked are you? How much trouble are you in with John Mateer looking to miss some time here, potentially here, missing the Texas game? Here's what I would say. Michael Hawkins Jr., going to be your starting quarterback now going forward. If they didn't think Michael Hawkins Jr., they being the staff at Oklahoma, was any good or could run their offense or was worth having in their building, they would have let him walk. They would have probably told him, hey, Mike, we appreciate you, man. Appreciate you what you did last year, but we're going to go another direction. So Michael Hawkins Jr. being there right now, still being in Norman under this new staff offensively, I think speaks volumes to what they think of him, which we mentioned already on a previous segment. But also Michael Hawkins Jr. gets a bye week to get all the way prepped, to get a little bit more of the offense catered to his skill set, the way it's different from a one John Mateer, and I think that's important to note. Also, you look at Michael Hawkins Jr., and it's very easy to just take the sample size of what last year was and say, well, I mean, he looks like he kind of is a one read and run kind of guy. I don't know if he's all the way comfortable playing college football just yet, and like that's 100% true because he wasn't playing college football or wasn't comfortable playing college football just yet last year. Like he wasn't supposed to play last year. It was supposed to be Jackson Arnold's show last year. So while it's fair to look at what last year was and take something from it, I don't think it should be the way you define this guy going forward as it pertains to how you view him. It was too early for him to play. His offensive line was atrocious. It was an infirmary across the board when it came to his receiving core. His offensive coordinator, quite frankly, wasn't that great. Now, he's had a full year as a college football player. He's got a better offensive coordinator in Ben Arbuckle. He has, I think, a better quarterback coach here in John Kuziewski. He's got more healthy, more stable weapons around him. Like Michael Hawkins Jr., just by nature of having been there for an extra year, is in a better spot now relative to where he was a season ago. So my point in all this, I don't think it's fair to say you know what you're getting of Michael Hawkins Jr. just yet. The main thing for Oklahoma offensively, what it was before John Mateer got hurt and what it is now is kind of the same, right? Like the task was, we have to find a way to run the football with someone not our quarterback. It's even more important now with Michael Hawkins Jr. in the game, right? Because you probably here you do sacrifice something throwing the ball downfield with John Mateer gone. Oklahoma doesn't need to change their philosophy, though. Like, yes, you maybe shrink the menu and lean into some other things in the run game more than you would, but I don't think that you're just like going no more quarterback run because John Mateer's gone. Like, you're still calling the offense, I think, in a similar fashion. Again, just the pass game menu maybe tinker with a little bit. So you look to the next couple of games and you look down the line to Red River and the rest of the SEC schedule. Worst case scenario here for Oklahoma, you just do your best Iowa impression, which is, hey, maybe punting the football isn't the worst play in the world. Because that defense, man, they're going to keep you in every game. We've said it ad nauseum. John Mateer out of the lineup sucks, but that defense is still awesome. Like, that defense is still up there with top 10, top 5 in college football, in my opinion. So offensively, you don't need to overextend yourself. You don't need to have Michael Hawkins Jr. go for 300 yards a game and be this dynamic passing offense. Like, run the ball, pick up first downs, get 3, get 7 where you can, but punt the football, flip the field, let your defense go eat. Like, we saw that this last week in that safety they got at the end of the game against Auburn, which was a huge cover for some. That defense might score for you a time or two. That's how you beat Auburn a year ago. It was a pick 6 to end the game in Jordan-Hare with Michael Hawkins Jr. playing quarterback for you. Like, just make sure the defense is in a good enough spot to be successful, and I think you're going to have a chance to win a lot of these games. Obviously, the bye week is huge to have that to help, Michael Hawkins, but the Kent State game, like, Kent State has just been taking a tough draw here on the schedule when you look at what they've had in front of them. So Kent State's an easy win. But the Texas game, like, do we know that Arch Manning is going to be able to handle what this Oklahoma defense is throwing at him? That's not me saying I'm just defining what Arch Manning is. Again, I keep telling you I'm going to give him a little bit longer. But, like, we've seen him struggle with pressure. Seen him struggle against some of these good defenses he's played to this point. Even some of these defenses that are not so good. Like, San Jose State early on gave Arch a little bit of trouble. Talk about the game against UTEP. It wasn't like he lit up UTEP necessarily. Oklahoma's going to be better than UTEP defensively. So I say all that to get to this point. If you can just play the field position battle, you can help Michael Hawkins Jr. You can play a different brand of ball. And I think when John Mateer does get back, whether it's the South Carolina game, whether it's the Ole Miss game, you're going to still be very much so in the hunt for the college football playoff. And I believe in the hunt for a SEC title game. You look at the Texas game, that's still a winnable game with Michael Hawkins Jr., just so we're all aligned. Like, Oklahoma may still be undefeated when John Mateer gets back. But this needs to be mentioned. I'm not a doctor. I don't know John Mateer's rehab regimen. I don't know how long it takes to get back from something like this. Again, the report is 3 or more weeks, which if you're going to go ahead and go on the conservative side of recovery, John Mateer would likely be back after the Texas game, given that information. However, John Mateer and what we know about him as just a competitor, wired a little bit different, a little bit psychopath to him when it comes to how he competes. I would not be shocked in the slightest if we saw John Mateer fast-track this rehab and find himself playing against Texas. But the big question is, do you want John Mateer playing against Texas? I know that sounds crazy to say out loud, but just roll with me here. You want John Mateer playing his best ball all the way healthy in the months of November and December and then so on and so forth, right? That's the most important part of this whole thing. If John Mateer comes back and he is, just crushing the rehab and they're pushing the envelope and he's trying to get back for Texas because he wants to play, it's a rivalry game. Have to imagine it was one of the first games he circled when he committed to Oklahoma. Like, all that is true. But if he gets hurt again against Texas because he fast-tracked things to play in that game and you lose him for a few more games, at that point, that's where you're really in trouble. So you just got to hold down the fort. And if he misses Red River, I would hate it as a college football fan. As someone who roots for John Mateer, I think that would suck. But hear me clearly. You want John Mateer available for November more than you want him available for the Texas game in the grand scheme of things. But I say all that to say I still wouldn't be surprised if he got back for Red River, just knowing what that dude's about. So if you're an Oklahoma fan, you're not cooked. A lot on the table here. I think you can win with Michael Hawkins Jr. I think you can win taking the Iowa formula and winning on defense, all right? Now, back to the program here. A fan favorite. We operate off supply and demand over here, and when the masses are clamoring for more Hard Count Herald, from more Hard Count Herald, from our very own Caden Smith, you got to give it to him, all right? So for those of y'all that aren't familiar, the Hard Count Herald is a bit of a forecasting tool for us. It's our very own fictional newspaper that we have on here that gives us the headlines ahead of time for what's going to happen in some of these games. And we got a few headlines to break down here, starting with Florida State and what it's going to look like for them after this Friday night game against Virginia. The Hard Count Herald reads, Noles roll against Virginia, setting up a battle for the supremacy in the ACC against Miami. So I've already predicted I think Florida State is going to beat Virginia. All right? Now, the big reason why that's important, Florida State and that win against Alabama was awesome, but Noles fans, those of you that watch the show, are going to get tired of hearing me say this, but I'm going to say it again. It's not hard to get up for the Bama game. That logo, that hype around that team. You're at home. You're a 2-touchdown dog, all those things. If you can't get up for the Bama game, you don't have a pulse. But it's different now when you go on a Friday night to Charlottesville, Virginia, and you're a touchdown favorite on the road, and it's not the typical routine that you have. Like, can you handle the hype is my biggest question here for Florida State. So I'm assuming now that Florida State will go to Virginia. I'm predicting them to win that game. I think it's a backdoor cover situation. And so your answer out of that game, if you're a Florida State fan, is yes, we can handle our hype. We haven't been overserved our hype. We can handle it just fine. We're good. We're still able to, walk in a straight line, all those things. So the reason why that's important is because that then tells me that it is truly a different culture than what you had a year ago. You're saying, JD, no dut's a different culture. Last year's culture wouldn't be Alabama. I hear you. But if you can beat Alabama and then go win on the road on a Friday night against Virginia, I'm saying, okay, the toxicity that held y'all down a year ago is, if it exists at all within the program, it doesn't exist to the point where it's going to force you to lose a game you shouldn't lose on a weekday, all right? And with that being the case, it tells me it is truly a new team, which then means the on-field factor for Florida State is more trustworthy. I don't have to worry about the spot so much. I don't have to worry about what happened in week 1 or the week before or the next week. You can handle yourself. You're good to go because the on-field product for Florida State is phenomenal to this point. Like, you hung 31 on Bama, and they're not just beating these other teams they're playing that are a little bit of a lesser caliber. Like, they're blowing the doors off of them, scoring 77 and 66 against Kent State and East Texas A&M. Allowed 13 total points combined in those 2 games. Like, I understand it's not nearly at all the caliber of opponent they're going to play here the rest of the way, but to see them like legitimately do what they're doing offensively, to be that potent offensively, that tells me a lot about what the on-field product is, and I think it's as impressive as anything else in the ACC. So that then sets up an awesome matchup against Miami. And this is going to be great. Now, I understand Georgia Tech, you're still absolutely in the conversation. To me, the talent level of a Florida State and a Miami is still, I think, the best in the ACC relative to teams in the ACC title hunt. I'm not factoring in Clemson right now. Sorry, Clemson, you did it to yourself. But the thing that would then mean is Florida State and Miami is going to feel like it should when they play. Now, full transparency, I wasn't around for when those matchups were like blockbuster kind of vibe. I was around, but I wasn't really around like consciously as a college football fan. So for me, being able to see Florida State and Miami playing as 2 top 10 teams, dare I say 2 top 5 teams, depending on how this whole thing breaks this upcoming weekend across the college football world, that's going to be awesome. Like, us as college football fans will win because that product will be spotlight or spotlit in the state of Florida. That game will have 2 iconic brands at that point in time operating at the peak of their powers at this point in the college football season. All of the cinema around that game will be where it's supposed to be, where it has historically been for those 2 teams. And I'm here for that. Now, if you're a Florida State fan, the opportunity there is the recruiting juice that's available to you if you win that game. Miami won the state last year. Okay, so if you go beat the team that won the state, and you do it in a somewhat convincing fashion, you do it at your place now with everyone watching, I'm assuming College Game Day will be there. Think about the way that would help shift the narrative to where it was a year ago. A year ago, it was like 2-10. Is Mike Norvell going to be there for an extended period of time? Like, all those things are being said. But if you go beat Miami, and we'll see what Miami is the rest of the way. I happen to think they're going to be a team that makes the college football playoff. So you own your own path in the ACC, obviously, with a win like that. But the way that you can pitch that to recruits, I'm assuming right now that Florida State is going to be favored when they play Florida. I don't think that's a stretch. But if you beat Miami and set up a game like that against Florida at the end of the year, and you can recruit the rest of the college football season with that in your back pocket, I think that matters. Because if you can be the team in the state of Florida with how much talent is there, you're set up to go win national championships. Now, that's several moves away from winning this game, but you understand what I'm saying. That would be huge for the overall revival of recruiting juice for Mike Norvell at the high school level with the win over Miami. Still got to do it. We still got to beat Virginia, but I think them getting that win on the road at night, getting that toxicity out of what last year's program was, I think that's huge for Florida State. And I love the momentum that would create for them going forward here on the recruiting trail. So the Hard Count Herald has got Florida State setting up a big matchup with Miami with a win over Virginia on the road at night on a weekday of all days to get it. Next up on the Hard Count Herald, when they play Penn State this weekend, we think Oregon's going to win. And the Hard Count Herald says, this might be Dan Lanning's best team yet. All right? Now, remember what we talked about this offseason relative to Oregon and what we talked about with Penn State. What did we say with Oregon? Hey, a lot of new pieces. The returning production numbers aren't really there. New quarterback. All those things are true. With Penn State, we were saying, hey, they bring back everybody. They're top 35 in returning production in all of college football. Their quarterback's back. Their backfield's back. Guys that could have gone pro came back to what? Go win a national championship. Which, who's to say they don't lose this game and still do? I think that's definitely on the table. But if Oregon walks in and wins that game, I think it's very fair to say this is Dan Lanning's best team he's had yet at Oregon. We'll break it down right now. Before we do that, though, one, if you're an Oregon fan, or if you're a college football sicko, or if you're a Penn State fan, whoever you are, make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. College football, nothing but college football year-round. Now, I know some of y'all college football sickos. You want to be at these games, all right? This game in Beaver Stadium, whiteout conditions. It is a bucket list item for me as a college football fan as well. But if you want to be at the game, you want to make sure you get the best ticket for the best price. Game Time is how we're getting that done. Okay, so the Game Time app is phenomenal. It gives you a view from your seat before you even purchase it, so you don't end up sitting behind the Jumbotron. You don't end up sitting behind some obscure pole that's somewhere in the stadium. Like you're viewing your view from your seat before you purchase it using the Game Time app, which is a tremendous feature. Also, you can buy up to the last minute. So if you're sitting there Saturday morning, you're like, man, I wonder what tickets are going for right now. Game Time got you covered. Check ticket prices in real time. They will get you taken care of. All right, so hear me clearly. We're going to save you all some money. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use code HARDCOUNT, HARDCOUNT, for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, download the Game Time app today. Get yourself locked in, especially for a game like this. If you're even thinking about going, this is your sign. If you're thinking about going, to use Game Time and to get to this game and to be in attendance for a whiteout atmosphere. Especially if you're an Oregon fan, because I think you're going to win the game. But if you win this game, if you're Oregon, think about what's true if Oregon ends up beating Penn State in Happy Valley in those conditions against that against that Penn State roster, rather, with what Oregon has. It would mean that your new quarterback is who you thought he was, arguably as talented as any quarterback you've had under Dan Lanning to this point in time, with Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel being in that category says something. But also it means that he's truly a psychopath. Like the whiteout and what that does to any given college football player, much less a quarterback in his first year starting for a different team in Oregon. Like if you walk into that thing and have success, you're wired differently upstairs. Just full transparency. That's how I feel about you. Also, if the defense for Oregon is good enough to keep that quarterback and that backfield at bay, with all the offensive line back essentially, with the backfield that took you for 300 yards last year on the ground, like if you're able to match up against that and play well enough to win in that spot, think about how good that defense is and what that says about them. And then also for the weapons for Oregon. We've talked ad nauseum about how good we think they are and all those things. Easy to say that when you're hanging half 100 on, Oklahoma State, or more than half 100, quite frankly. When you're taking Northwestern out to the woodshed, wish you would have covered, but neither here nor there. Like, the weapons are awesome for Oregon, but if you do it against Jim Knowles and that defense with all the production they brought back on that side of the football, okay, check mark, verified. The weapons are elite. And it would, to me, just be validation of all the pieces Oregon's had. And we always thought they were talented, but to go win a game like that in that spot, it'd be validating for the way you put it all together if you're Dan Lanning. It'd be validation, too, for what Will Stein has done on the offensive side, for what Tosh Lupoi has done on the defensive side, because I think there is something to be said for the lack of returning production from last year is fair to question, but we've been saying this for a while on this show. Lack of proven production doesn't mean the future production isn't still super capable and talented. Like, I think we'd all have a moment here. If Oregon beats Penn State, we say, oh, yeah, actually, those top 10 portal classes they've been reeling in, oh, those top 10, top 5 recruiting classes they've landed, actually, maybe that does mean something. Maybe Oregon should be taken a little bit more seriously year in and year out and not factor in the proven production quite as much as we do with some of these other programs. So if this is all true, think about this. It's September, right? Think about different Oregon teams that Dan Lanning's had since he's gotten there. They've taken a second to totally mesh and gel. Like, go year by year here. The first ever game Dan Lanning had at Oregon was against Georgia. They got spanked. little bit later, though, in the first month of him being there, 3-point win over Washington. Washington State. Washington State wasn't all that great that year. Like, they won 6 games. And then in 2023, still a good year for Oregon, but you have a 1-score win over Texas Tech. Texas Tech finished 6-6 that year. So again, September, Oregon, come on now, let's put it together. Let's get rolling here. In 2024, you have a 10-point win over Idaho. This is a team that won the Big Ten championship, that made the college football playoff. 3-point win over Boise State. Now, Boise State still made the college football playoff, still I think one of the 12 best teams in college football, but at that point in time, them coming to Autzen, you only win that game by 3 points. I'm just saying, I don't think Oregon in November would have only won that game by 3, is my take on this. So if it's the 2025 edition of Oregon, and you go beat Penn State in the first month of the season at their place with a wideout, with you being triple digits in returning production, you see where I'm going with this? I think that being the jumping off point for this team and them only getting better going forward, this I think would be very fair to say this is Dan Lanning's best team. So I think the Hard Count Herald's on the money here. I think Dan Lanning and Oregon will beat Penn State. I think we'll be saying those things on Sunday morning when they get it done over the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley. Next up on the Hard Count Herald, check this one out. LSU spoils, hat tip Brian Kelly, tremendous work there by Caden Smith. The Rebels Saturday. Offense gets it rolling against Ole Miss is, I think, what the Hard Count Herald is alluding to here, and I think they're on the money, man. Because here's the thing with Ole Miss. I told you, they're going to, I think, be the most dynamic offense that LSU has seen to this point. But the defensive structure, they play with 3 true down linemen on the defensive side. And I got a feeling now that Brian Kelly's seeing what that defense hasn't done against the run, right? They're allowing 5 yards a carry. They're allowing darn near 200 yards of ground, or 200 yards on the ground every game. I got a feeling Brian Kelly wants to prove a point. Because I think he definitely hears all the chatter being said about his football team, what they haven't done offensively, and the offensive line and all those things. There's a reason he's addressed those pretty emphatically in the media, and I'm here for it. But I think that the way this game could flow and what LSU wants to get done in this game, which you'd have to think is keep the ball out of Trinidad Chambliss' hands, LSU is going to make a point to run the football early. I think they'll have success doing that because of what I just said with how Ole Miss is going to align. A lot of people now are saying, what about LSU? Hey, defense is great. This offense, though, that I was promised in the preseason, what's going on, man? Like, Garrett Nussmeier looks kind of pedestrian. I mean, that win over Clemson isn't really aging all that well. The Florida win, I mean, took a defensive touchdown. Offense only scored 13 points against Florida, and Florida's probably going to fire their head coach here sooner rather than later. All those things are true. Here's my thing. The sample size you're looking at with LSU, I think, is deceiving. I think Clemson, in the spot they got that win over them, LSU that is, it was at home. It was to start the year, and Clemson was a confident football team at that point in time, or at least they should have been, with all the production they brought back, with the home crowd at their back. They were fresh, all those things. Also, there's been some buzz here a little bit, too, about how healthy Garrett Nussmeier maybe wasn't in that spot, neither here nor there. The bottom line, though, Clemson still has probably, 3 first-round draft picks on that defense? Just because you weren't able to light up Clemson doesn't make me all that concerned. And then Florida, same conversation. Oh, but JD, Florida's not that great. They just lost to USF. Yeah, exactly. They were desperate, dude. It's a desperate Florida team that they played. And Florida, going into this game against Miami this past weekend, had only allowed 2 offensive touchdowns. Say what you want about Florida as a team right now. The defense is still super talented. The defense is still not the weak link in what's going on in Gainesville. So, yeah, the team may not be that great, but Florida's defense is still solid. So the sample size around LSU not being great offensively, I think, is a little bit skewed. Now, I can't make any excuses for the Louisiana Tech game, neither here nor there. Maybe it's a letdown spot for LSU post-Clemson. But my point in all this is I still trust what LSU has ingredients-wise on that offense. It'd be different if it was a first-year starting quarterback and we're like, man, I don't know if this guy's really got it, if he can make it all go. This is a guy who just threw for 4,000 yards a year ago, his first year starting in the SEC. And his weapons around him, I believe, are as good, if not better than what they were a year ago, with Barry and Brown over from Kentucky. I think this team has everything they need to go have a lot of success. So with that being the jumping off point, you look at this game, I think that LSU is going to pound the rock early. What I think that'll force Pete Golding to do, the DC for Ole Miss, is have those safeties trigger a little bit more quickly. Linebackers play more downhill. At that point, then, the speed for LSU will show itself in explosive plays. I think LSU scores a lot of points in this game. Lane Kiffin said take the over. I'm with him. Take the over. I don't know what Ole Miss is going to score, but I think that LSU is going to score a lot of points. And we'll leave this weekend, we'll say, oh, there's the LSU offense. There's going to be a lot of people now that say, I was never worried about LSU. Oh, I knew they were going to score points. I never had questions. Don't listen to them now. Everyone's going to try to do I already knew that. You didn't know that. You were questioning Garrett Nussmeier. You're questioning the offensive line. I'm just telling you, people that act like they weren't worried about LSU's offense, don't let them do that to you. Because a lot of people, notice, talking about LSU's offensive limitations, they're going to be proven incorrect this weekend in Oxford when LSU lights up the scoreboard, I believe, at Ole Miss. Neither here nor there. Last headline here from the Hard Count Herald. USC going to Champaign, Illinois. Hard Count Herald reads, USC puts Big Ten on notice. All right? How about that, huh? Illinois, yeah, they just got beat the brakes off of them by Indiana. But Illinois, you look at the kind of games that USC used to lose. Wasn't it kind of to teams like Illinois that had a bunch of production back on the offensive line? All 5 starters back on the offensive line, mind you. A team that ran for 150 yards on the ground per game a year ago. A defense that gave up 21 points a game a year ago and with 75% production back. Like, say what you want about the Indiana game for Illinois. This team still was picked by a lot of people preseason to be the trendy playoff team. This year's Indiana. This was kind of the kryptonite for previous Lincoln Riley teams and much less previous USC teams. Line of scrimmage, gritty, blue collar. Think like those old Utah teams. They had USC's number. Didn't matter if Caleb Williams was playing quarterback for you or not. And so what I think we see in this game, what the Hard Count Herald is alluding to here, or saying pretty definitively actually, what we're going to see in this game is the fruits of USC's labor since that 2023 season will pay off and show up in this spot. Because what happened in 2023? You had Caleb Williams back as your reigning Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, and you had it all in front of you to go make the college football playoff, make a statement, put USC back on the map in a big way, but it didn't happen that way. Why? Because quite frankly, USC was nowhere near tough enough to go compete at the level they had to compete at. So you had the quarterback, and that's great, but I think after that year happened and you had the massive underachievement that year was, where you play in the Holiday Bowl and Miller Moss is out there throwing darts for you because Caleb Williams is not going to play in the Holiday Bowl. I think there was a moment there in Los Angeles where they said, this can't be how we live anymore as a program. Like, we have to prioritize the line of scrimmage. I know it's early. I know they've only played against Purdue and Michigan State for teams of note, but USC right now averaging 7 yards a carry on the ground. USC as a football team, defensively, is averaging giving up right around 3 yards a carry. That's top 25 in college football. They have made a point now on the talent acquisition side of things to beef up the line of scrimmage. And then also, what were people saying last year? Hey, the defense was better, but where was the quarterback play at? Miller Moss wasn't terrible, but it wasn't the Lincoln Riley brand of football. As Lincoln Riley lost his fastball, we'll come out of this game saying, no. That's not the case. Lincoln Riley has still got it. He handpicks Jade Maiava from the portal, flips him from Georgia when he left UNLV. Right now, he just looks like he's playing a more composed brand of football. He actually looks like he knows what he's looking at. And that's not me saying he didn't know what he was looking at a year ago, but just by nature of decisions he made, a little bit more cavalier, a little bit more Pirates of the Caribbean to him, making plays off script, which is great. But Lincoln Riley's system, if you run it the right way, if you play within the structure, good things happen. Right now, Jade Maiava, 0 interceptions, 9 touchdowns, 12 yards a pass. He knows what he's looking at. It's the difference between the smart kid who doesn't really have to study too much and just kind of shows up on test day, gets by, B+, versus oh no, I'm going to do the study guide. I'm going to show up to class. I'm going to ask teacher questions. I'm going to go to office hours. That's Jade Maiava. He's always been talented. But for him to actually be dialed into what they want to do offensively and to be executing, that's why you're seeing USC operate the level that they're operating at. And that's a big reason why USC, I think, is going to win this football game. Because I don't think that Illinois on the back end can hang with USC. And for that reason, we think that this is going to be the headline coming out of this weekend is USC putting the Big Ten on notice. So what that means is there's not going to be any more whispering around USC. Because we said it before, it kind of feels like it's a quieter USC than it ever has been. There's not a bunch of big storylines around them leading into this point in the year. But when they beat Illinois, you have a bye week, and then you got some big stages, man. I don't know what game day is doing these weekends, but I'd look at these games. You got Michigan in the Coliseum. Okay, I'm here for that. That's appointment viewing at Notre Dame. Notre Dame's been in playoff mode. I think after this game, we take USC much more seriously as a college football playoff contender. Okay, I'm here for that. Isn't that how it should feel around USC, though? You know what I'm saying? Like, shouldn't it feel like the Hollywood vibe to it, which is what USC has been at their best? Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Lendale White, lights, camera, action. Everyone's tuned into what's going on in the Coliseum. Every Saturday, that thing's more packed out. Like, that should be how USC football feels. And so with that city, with that quarterback whisperer as your head coach, with the access to those recruiting grounds, all those things, like this is everything that you would imagine USC would be in modern college football. This is everything that I think USC has access to in modern college football, with the way NIL is structured, with the opportunity Los Angeles presents, with Lincoln Riley, the quarterback card that he's always going to be able to play, with recruiting guys like that. Like all that to me is on deck and available for USC. And a game like this could maybe not, be the total tide changer, but it could be the tide turner, which sets them on that trajectory and sets USC towards back where they want to be, which is among the top teams in college football, and by nature of doing that, one of the top teams in the Big Ten. So this weekend, if you're USC, this is where you get it going. All right. So Hard Count Herald reading: USC puts the Big Ten on notice with the win in Champaign. Big time for the folks out there in Los Angeles. All right. We got Joey McGuire here on deck for us in a matter of moments. Great conversation with the head coach of Texas Tech. Talked about Will Hammond, talked about the way that they build their culture in the world of the portal and NIL and all those things. Before we do that, though, our pre-Week 5 college football superlatives, what we're going to be watching, what we're tracking here for this upcoming slate. It's a good one. It's a good one. To break it all down, the man, the myth, the legend, the one who makes it all go on the ones and the twos, and the microphone, two-time All-Sun Belt safety, Caden Smith. Cato, we got a good slate, man. It's a good one.
Best of the year?
So far, man.
I think this is the one.
This is more than Week 1?
Yeah, I think.
Really? Okay.
Remember we did our best games of the year draft?
Yes.
The number one prospect of that was Texas, Ohio State. Didn't quite live up to the hype. I think now, knowing what we know through 4 weeks, I drafted Penn State, Oregon. I know Georgia versus Alabama got drafted as well. You pair that with what we've seen through 4 weeks and some of these other matchups that are pretty exciting with LSU, Ole Miss, A&M, Auburn. Like, I think this is the one. I think this is the best weekend of college football. Starts Friday even with some good games there, but I'm pumped for this. This was my favorite superlative list to kind of dive into it and see what we got.
With that segue, man, let's start with the upset that maybe we're not picking out right, but if we had to pick an upset, we'd pick this one. And you said it perfectly, man. Friday, Oregon State hosting Houston. All right, little sickos hour. I believe it's 9:30 our time, Cato, 10:30 Eastern. Why not that one? Like, in some of this, people are going to say, well, it's just because Houston put you in the cinematic recap after you picked against them. That has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it, all right? 2-score dog at the crib, Oregon State, with Connor Wegman and company rolling into town. Different time zone. Reser Stadium, get the chainsaw rolling. I like that one, Cato. Friday night action, September 26th, Oregon State over Houston, plus 13.5. If I had to pick an upset, that's the one I'm looking at, brother.
13.5 points.
It's a lot.
You're just coming for Houston, man.
Big game hunting, man.
I think we've at length talked about how fun that the Big 12 is and just how many good teams and quarterbacks there are. What if Connor Wegman just figures it out? Willie Fritz has that team looking like Tulane did a couple years ago, and all of a sudden Houston's another team to be in the mix in the Big 12. They're undefeated. I think they're one of like 7 teams that's still undefeated in the Big 12. It's going to be a bloodbath. We'll see if the Oregon State team can make it interesting in Corvallis, but that's a fun one.
What about you, man? What do you got on deck for the upset if you had to pick one?
Dude, I don't know if it's going to be outright upset. I don't know if it's going to be a cover. But there's something about Ohio State going up to Seattle to play Washington. Yeah. Julian Sayin has looked great since his debut against a very tough Texas defense. But I think this test is just a little bit different. It's kind of a hard reset. And I think Washington's one of the most underrated teams in the country. They're undefeated still. Damon Williams is a stud. They have just elite players at the quarterback, running back, and wide receiver position. And I think you can draw up a scheme and a game plan around those three guys to move the ball. The defense, like you mentioned earlier, this week, Ryan Walters, a former head coach, one of the best coordinators in the country, devising a game plan against a young quarterback. I just like this spot for Washington. Washington, only behind Georgia, has the longest home winning streak in the country, 20-plus games.
Ooh, stats by Cato.
I think that I wouldn't pick them to outright win, but I think just in general, upset watch, just as the lower 30 said, just watch this game. Watch this how this one starts. I don't think Ohio State's proven they're that team that in Big Ten play just yet can just come out, get up 30 points like they used to and how we've seen. I think they still have a little bit more to prove, especially with that quarterback under center. So give me upset watch. Eyes on Seattle this weekend. Ohio State visiting the Huskies.
It's kind of a tricky Big Ten opener, if you're Julian saying.
It is.
Like on the road, you mentioned the home field advantage. I mean, it'll be on top of them, I'm sure, with what that stadium's going to bring. So that'll be a fun one, man. I like that pick. It's interesting, too. You check social media, there is two thoughts in the Ohio State camp as a fan base. One, we're going to blow the doors off Washington. Why are y'all being scared? The other is more in line with what you just said. Hey, Washington, still a very talented football team, mobile quarterback, all those things. I like that pick. That's a fun one, man. I'm excited for that one.
I feel like we never know when it's going to be Washington's year until it is.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it just happens.
Yeah.
So could this be it? I like what they've got. I think they're underrated. I think they should be ranked right now, honestly, but we'll see.
Pike's Place might be flowing, man. Might be running rampant at that point in the day out there in Seattle. But speaking of running rampant, Cato, I'm excited about this, man. We got a new sponsor to the show, and that is our friends over at Brunt. Okay, now here's the thing, Cato. I am at this point in my life where I just had a baby girl. My wife had a baby girl. I am fathering the baby girl. She's 10 months old. We have a rental home. The yard around our house is starting to need a little bit more upkeep. And so with that being the case and the weather starting to turn, I can't be out here in my tennis shoes trying to figure out how to get all the greenery arranged, how to, break all the leaves, do all the yard work stuff. Need a pair of boots. So the good folks at Brunt, man, got us right. Check this out. The Omen. Check these out.
Got to go full screen for these.
The Omen boots, man. The Omen. I mean, comfortable, durable. Here's the thing. With boots, I wore a lot of boots in my days in the Northeast. The tough part about boots is a lot of times you get durable, but you sacrifice comfort. These Omens, you don't do that. You get durability, you get comfort, you get functionality. I'm going to be a fiend on the yard work side of things, doing my job as a father figure and a father period, overseeing that part of our home. So Omen taking care of us. Y'all, Brunt was tired of the workwear brands out there cutting corners. You work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots that don't hold up. So they built something better. Boots that are insanely comfortable and built for any job site or your rental home. For a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt when you use code HARDCOUNT at checkout. Just head to BruntWorkwear.com, use the code HARDCOUNT, and you're good to go. After you order, they'll ask where you heard about Brunt. Do us a favor. Tell them you heard about them, from us on this show, the Hard Count. All right, so we appreciate Brunt making this show roll and appreciate them for the Omen boots, man. Good stuff by them. Good stuff. Now,
those are sweet.
They're nice, man. It's good stuff. We got to make sure we put those to good use out there in the yard. And in the yard, man, things get a little bit weird. Could get a little bit weird for me trying to figure out how to make all that go. Thankfully, I got those tools behind me. But things that could get weird this weekend, Cato, the game that I have circled, Notre Dame at Arkansas.
Ooh.
Sleepy noon kick, back against the wall for the Hogs, off a loss to Memphis, a little bit of pride bruised. They're limping into this one. Notre Dame still has 2 losses on their schedule already to this point in the year with losses to Miami and A&M. Good losses, but they just beat Purdue. I wonder just a little bit, how does C.J. Carr handle this spot? Also, you talk about the ingredients for an upset. Usually you get a mobile quarterback baked in there. Taylor Green, his mobility against that man coverage. Back turned a lot in man coverage, Cato. I don't know, man. That one has dropped from 5.5 down to 4.5. Be curious to see what it is at kickoff. Things could get weird. I still think Notre Dame wins. Things could get weird when Notre Dame goes to Fayetteville, Cato.
Yeah, and I think if Notre Dame was undefeated up until this point, I think this one could get really, really weird. Arkansas coming off the upset to Memphis. Good Memphis team. I'm sure they'd like to flip the script this week and get an upset win themselves. It's an SEC game. This is the part of the schedule we were talking about Notre Dame's schedule is not that typical easy schedule. Like Arkansas is not the easiest place to play. They have SEC bodies in the trenches that can physically match up probably what Notre Dame has. So I like that a lot. And it's funny, I think as we keep doing this segment, we're seeing teams that might find themselves in this things could get weird. And they're just teams that can make things weird. And I think Arkansas is a good candidate for that. I think so is mine. And that's Ole Miss. I believe this is the second time they've made this category. I think LSU visiting Ole Miss, I think it's already gotten weird on the field and off the field.
Yes.
A little weird off the field with the whole Whit Weeks, Lane Kiffin daughter situation. Ole Miss is favored, even though LSU's ranked higher. A little weird as well. And things can get weird in the vault just in general with Trinidad Chambliss, the hottest quarterback on the scene right now, despite what Kirby Smart thinks about Ty Simpson. This guy just comes in 2 games into SEC football, tears it up, have a very limited sample size of film to watch with him. Mobile quarterbacks are a very good cure-all to a good defense, and this LSU defense, as we mentioned earlier this week, probably a top 2, top 3 unit in the country with how they're playing. I think this one gets weird. It's kind of a stay away for me for betting. That's how I know it's getting weird if you don't feel strongly one way or another. I could see this going either way. I could see it being high scoring, low scoring. I could see Trinidad coming down to earth or just living up to the hype again. Don't know what to expect, but I think it's going to get weird in Oxford.
For what it's worth, Lane Kiffin says take the over. So if a head coach is telling you what to bet, might not be the worst idea. But again, I think that's probably going to move the line too when it comes to the total. See, I'm not sure if I'll have enough self-control to not bet this one, to be real with you, just because I think I'm like so pot committed on the Tigers. But I'm with you, dude. Like if I do, I'm not going to feel great about it. I'm going to kind of be like, I don't know, the Trinidad effect of it all. It's funny you say that. That's my must-see TV. Is Trinidad Chambliss against that defense with that aggression, with his skill set, the mobility. Like, Kato, you were one of the first to like really put me onto his game. He's just so unflappable. It's crazy. And so that being paired with a defense that tries to get you flapped in a very real way, that's going to be awesome. I cannot wait to see how he responds in that spot. The biggest spot of his career to this point is must-see TV, Trinidad Chambliss, LSU defense. I'm so glued to it, dude. I'm so glued.
That's a good pick for sure. I think people who haven't been familiar with his game, maybe watching his previous exploits the last 2 weeks, maybe everyone was tuned in on Tulane, maybe not tuned in on the Arkansas game.
Yeah.
This is the one now, like, I think he could put the world on notice and maybe Trinidad even on notice. You never know. He could be the face of the franchise for that country as well. I have 2 here, JD.
I love it.
I think this just has to get recognized. The 6:30 window this week is the most must-see TV we'll have as far as a 2-box. You have Georgia and Alabama on one screen, and you have Penn State and Oregon on another screen. Would it be cool if those were at different times? Yeah. But the sickos like us, the two screen mavens, I mean, this is as must-see as it gets as far as matchups, brands, rankings, environments. I just had to put that on there.
Perfect.
But for an individual game, USC versus Illinois, start your day off with a cup of coffee. Illinois trying to get back off the mat after getting destroyed by Indiana. USC trying to prove to the world, hey, we should have been ranked a while ago. We have a good team here. We have something special here. We're running the ball well. The defense has improved. And if you haven't watched Jaden Mayava play football yet, Lincoln Riley's biggest quarterback yet. He's huge. He has the system down like the back of his hand. Wayman Jordan's ripping off 7 to carry. If you're not familiar, again, like with Trinidad Chambliss, if you're not familiar with his game, if you're not familiar with Mayava's game, this is going to be a great time to just wake up, make a cup of coffee, and watch USC get after it with Illinois in an awesome Big Ten matchup. I think that's very underrated.
I'm so glad we have Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt for that call. Because that's going to be, there's going to be a Mayava nickname. It's going to be absolutely cash money. You'd think there'll be a Luke Altmaier nickname coming around if there's not already that I'm not privy to. I like that pick a lot, Kato. I like that pick a lot.
Drops back.
It's uncanny. Like, those
Jacoby Lane
on podcast, you're not listening to Gus Johnson on it's the impersonation, the impression, if you will, of the one Caden Smith that is creme de la creme.
Finds Jacoby Lane. Touchdown, Trojans.
Jacoby Lane, dude. We'll see if he plays. Shoot.
I hope so.
I hope he plays, man. Golly.
We know he only needs one hand. I mean,
a couple fingers, and he's good to go, dude. I wanna give you the Sickos Hour floor here because I might actually zag where we zig here. So I want to give it to you. And
this is the Sickos Hour. It's very forgiving. Sometimes it understands that you can be too much of a sicko sometimes and put too many of these Saturdays together, and it can maybe alter your sleep. So there's not as big of a menu here. I have BYU at Colorado. Again, like the quarterback issues of Colorado just makes them so watchable. Caden Salter is going to get the nod here. He played well last week, and BYU destroyed Colorado last year. It was that game where there was punt returns, the kickoff returns maybe. Like, there was all kinds of touchdowns in this game, all different kinds of ways. So I'm excited to see Colorado with an edge, with a quarterback with something to prove, with a bad taste in their mouth from last year's game, playing a ranked team in BYU who came in right at 25 in the rankings. This is just quintessential old Pac-12, new Big 12 kind of game that I won't mind cozying up to and watching at 9:30 local here in Nashville.
Yeah, it's kind of that. I don't want to say it's a standalone because there's other games to watch, but that's the one that you hit it right on the head. That's like the one you're watching when you're up. Kids are in bed. Maybe you're out and about. Maybe you're just kind of rounding down your night. That's the one that has the attention. Plus 6.5, I believe, right now.
Yep.
So we'll see. I love that. Caden, for the exact reason you just mentioned, I'm going to actually take Sicko's Hour and be a little bit generous with the actual timing that it's at. We call it Sicko's Hour. You know how much of a sicko you got to be to watch two winless Big Ten teams, Cato? UCLA at Northwestern.
The Toilet Bowl.
The Toilet Bowl, the Winless Bowl. I'm looking for a new head coach bowl for UCLA, like 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern. That is Sicko's Hour to me. Now, if you're watching that instead of one of these other 3:30 games like Ole Miss and LSU, then God bless your soul. But that, to me, not the Sicko's Hour timeline typically, but Sicko's Hour nonetheless, 3:30 Eastern, UCLA, going to Evanston, Illinois, playing at a bona fide practice field. Probably as many fans as UCLA has had in the Rose Bowl the last couple of weeks. I'm excited to, I don't know about watch that one, but keep up with and see the result of that one, because whoever loses that game, the rest of their season, there are not a lot of other wins on the schedule. So it could be dark.
That's an awesome and beautiful pick. You redefining Sicko's Hour successfully. I'm impressed. I did not see that coming, and that's more of a sicko game to watch for sure than a game that could be at 2:00 in the morning.
They should move it.
I respect it so much. To pull back the curtain on the studio here, our video team has a board where we make our picks every week, and there's so many good games this weekend, but this game did sneak into it because it's just kind of funny. Like, the loser of this game might have to be sent to the Pac-12. It's just two down and out Big Ten teams. Loser leaves town kind of game. And you have to be a sicko to watch it and even care about it. This board obviously represents the sickos that we have in this office. And both of these games make the cut. Last week we had the USC Michigan State spread. Loved having it as the last pick, kind of to end out the night. We have BYU up there this week. So you got to love it, man. You got to love the sport. It's the only time where you'll get a sicko hour redefined by one JD PicKell and just a trailblazer in the industry per usual.
Well, on the shoulders of giants, to say the least. But I'm excited to get your take on that one when we get in the office here on a Sunday morning. And both of us hopefully are like, yeah, I kind of watched it. Not really, though. Good for X team getting off the schneid and getting a win. But, Cato, speaking of sickos, appreciate you, man, being a sicko, making this show go. Appreciate y'all making this show that are watching this thing. Going to round this show out here and give you the finale. We got to sit down with Joey McGuire, head coach of Texas Tech, one of my favorite human beings in the college football world. Phenomenal guy, phenomenal coach. Excited for y'all to hear this conversation. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We will keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Here's Coach McGuire. Joining us now, fresh off of a massive win, head coach of the undefeated Texas Tech Red Raiders. First team, all just phenomenal human being. That's Coach Joey McGuire. Coach, I appreciate you making time, man. This is awesome.
Man, you already know anything for you, brother. Like I said earlier, man, I'm proud of you, and I'm just glad that I get the opportunity to be on here because you're crushing it. You guys are doing a great job, and it's fun to follow.
Well, I appreciate that a lot. I've told the story a couple times, but I got to have a cup of coffee at Baylor with you, and I'm like a graduate transfer walk-on. So, like, one, not recruited. Right. Second of all, I'm only there for, like, again, cup of coffee, 15 minutes. And if I'm on the team for longer, like, I'm not a guy you can develop or anything. But, I mean, it's cool to see you on the sideline now, but you at Baylor made everyone feel like they were the number one recruiter on the board, 5-star guys. So it's been very cool to see that translate over at Texas Tech. And it seems like it's a thing within your team as well. Like, the culture and the guys that play for you, like, it feels very evident watching your team play. There's a tight locker room there.
Yeah, I just believe, man, you made the choice to come to Baylor. You chose that, and that means a lot to me. Like, when guys choose to come to Texas Tech, A lot of people right now talk about how much money we spent. Well, guess what? Those guys that chose to be at Texas Tech, they could have had that same money somewhere else, or maybe even more in some cases, but they chose to be at Texas Tech. That means a lot to me because not only they choose Texas Tech, they chose me. And so I want to make sure they feel that for me too, that how much I appreciate that. And man, you know me, man, I'm all about the players. And so I think it's very important that locker room is healthy and happy.
Well, I got to ask this. It's the bye week now, and I'm doing some digging around before we get in this conversation, just asking like, hey, any inside baseball with Coach? And I got told multiple times, hey, ask him about the Friday routine. So one, what is the Friday routine? And then two, is it still in play during a bye week?
It's not in play because I'm going to be on the road. But the Friday routine, I think what you're talking about, as soon as we eat at 6, we go to a movie, we have a team meeting with a hype video, and then we have our snack. And then that's whenever there's about 5 of us that go back to my room, and man, we'll have a couple TVs on if there's a good college game on, but we follow. I'm a high school geek, man. I'm a football geek. And so we follow all the scores of all the high schools. And so I'm literally sitting there, and as soon as the score comes in, it's one of my buddies, I'm texting them, hey, great game, great win, stuff like that. And so like our Friday routine, whether we were playing, a 10 o'clock kickoff like we were in Utah, we're still getting all the scores from everything that's going on in Texas with the high school. So we stick with it. Now, this Friday we'll be on the road, so we won't be doing it as much.
That's a lot of scores, though. How many games are we tracking? Like you say all the games, that's like 20, 30 scores, more than that. Like how many games are we tracking?
Yeah, well, I'm tracking anybody that's committed to us or we're recruiting, I'm tracking them. And then, I've got a bunch of, I was a high school coach for 23 years in the state of Texas. So I got a bunch of guys that I still, Lee Wigington at Allen, he's one of my dudes. And so I'm tracking Allen. So I bet there's probably 50 something scores that are games that we're tracking, if not more.
It's a lot of texts. The thumb's got to be sore after a game, after a Friday night with Coach McGuire. But you mentioned before, speaking to just like how much you care about the players and the guys on your team, and you mentioned the transfer portal, the way that you all have used that, whether it be the portal or recruiting at the high school level. Talk to me about the personal recruiting you do when it comes to recruiting the human being. Because again, going back to culture, the people that make it up seem to be top-notch as well. What's the process there for you evaluating the human part of this?
Yeah, we hit some home runs, and it was just, really doing our homework. Like Howard Sampson played for Mac Brown. Mac Brown's one of my favorite people and a really good friend of mine. And so I called Mac, and then I FaceTimed Mac with Howard Sampson, and Mac helped me get Howard Sampson. Gus Malzahn is a great friend of mine. Lee Hunter would have never left if Gus was still at UCF. And so I was able to call Gus and say, hey, man, tell me about this kid. So we try to do as much homework. It's the same way with the high school, especially in the state of Texas. There's not a high school coach that I can't pick up the phone and call and say, hey, look, man, you got to give me the ins and outs of this kid, because if we're bringing him in. I know guys are young guys and they make bad decisions, but we need good people in the building. Everybody's going to make a bad decision and make a mistake, but we got to have good hearts. Like, do they really care about their teammates? And then do they love football? Because man, you played. This is hard. It's a full-time job between going to school and playing. And I'll tell you, everybody talks about this being more like professional because these guys are getting paid. There's no optional classes at Texas Tech. I'm going to know within 5 to 15 minutes that you're late to class. And at 5:30 the next morning, you're going to have a reminder that, hey, men are on time and do what they say they're do. And so that's why we've had a 3.0 or better in the last 3 semesters as a team, because we go to class.
I love that. No optional classes at Texas Tech. That's big time. Unfortunately, for myself, class was sometimes optional in my undergrad days at Cornell. But that's neither here nor there. I'm glad that we didn't cross paths during my undergrad time. But, Coach, you mentioned recruiting the high school level and recruiting the state of Texas. A guy from Texas who went berserk is Will Hammond. Bear Morton goes down, Will Hammond steps in, and like he did not flinch. Is that just kind of how he operates? Is that just his persona? Like, walk me through that whole Will Hammond experience, if you will.
Well, one, I'm glad that BYU and Utah didn't recruit him the way they should have, because his family's from Utah, and his parents went to BYU, and he had like 40-something family members there at the game. They got to watch him play, but that's who he is, man. He's a guy, really strong faith. He's very, very intelligent. And the thing that really helped us, Barron didn't go through spring because he was coming off his shoulder surgery. So Will has taken every single rep in spring with the one. So every receiver, every running back, that offensive line, they were ready to go. Nobody panicked whenever he came in because they have so much faith in Will and the way he operates. He's a really unique person because he's kind of one of those guys that people gravitate to, and he's different. And his differences make him who he is, and people really respect that.
I mean, it was cool to see. Again, just seemed like he was out there playing pickup football. Like, it was. I mean, I felt chill watching him play.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. Was there a conversation you had with him before he took the field, or was there anything going on in the headset prior to him going into the game?
Now, Mac talked to him, our OC. I mean, I'm in there in the huddle, but I didn't. I mean, really, whenever Barron went out, I was like, Will's going to go in and perform. I had no, like, there was no nervousness, whatsoever. I do think that the guys really rallied around him. I mean, it's really cool. I didn't notice it in the game, but I watched the TV copy, and Sheridan Wilson's kind of, punching him in the chest, saying, "Let's go." They're both getting hyped up, and that says a lot about the team. And I think there was a really cool moment that I didn't notice again until you're watching the TV copy, but like one of his touchdowns, Lee Hunter's coming over to him, telling him congrats, our big defensive tackle. So one, that says a lot about Will, but it also says a lot about our team of how much they care about each other.
And when he goes into the game and does what he does, obviously everyone's like, oh man, Texas Tech's got two great quarterbacks. Like, is that something that you're talking about at all internally? Because you got Bear Morton, who's a proven commodity. Will Hammond goes crazy. Like, how do you handle having two good options in that quarterback room?
Yeah, well, first, just want to tell everybody he's under a 2-year contract, so you're wasting your time trying to tamper with him. We were smart enough to know that when Barron left, we had our quarterback in waiting and ready to go. He's a redshirt freshman, and so we'll get him for at least 2 to 3 years. If he keeps playing like this, then we'll probably only have him for 2 years, after this. But, the thing, I just think Will understands. I mean, you played, so you get this. And a lot of guys in that office that are around you played. Like, there's times in your life, this is your role. You don't have to accept your role from the standpoint of not wanting more, but you do have to accept your role that when it's time for your number to be called, you got to be ready to go. So many people can't do that because they get frustrated because they want so much more and they can't accept their role on the team. So they're not ready when they're called upon. That's the great thing about Will Hammond. He knows exactly who he is. He knows whenever he's called upon, then it's time to go. And then the one thing that we did in game 1, game 2, and game 3 is when he came in the game, no matter what the score was, we ran the offense. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to hand the ball off. It was like, look, there's going to be a point in the season that Will Hammond's got to come in, and it can't be at that point he's running the offense. It's got to be from the get-go. And so if you go back to week 1, 2, and 3, when he came in, it was hammered down, man. He was throwing the ball around. He was running. He was doing everything he could to get in the end zone.
I think that was the other thing that stood out. Like you just mentioned, you're watching this guy go into the game, and it's just like, no, we're rocket launching. Like, we're running the same exact system. It was cool to see. Doesn't hurt, though, when the defense plays the level they do, obviously against Utah. I know you take through University, and it was true to its name in that game against Utah. When did you know this front seven especially was going to be the unit that has been to this point in the year, just essentially dominant?
Yeah, I think we're pretty good up front in the O-line. And during spring football, there were times that there were guys on the D-line, we just couldn't block, and we work with a group, and they're like, hey, don't panic because you can't block some of these guys, because it's going to be hard for anybody to block them, and so continue to build your offense and don't try to do something different in your offense just to have success against your own self or your defense, and I thought Mac did a good job of just continuing to install and get better on offense. So I thought really early, but it's also, you got a bunch of vets. And so when they walk into Jones AT&T Stadium or when they went into Utah, they go up another level. They can really, they practice really hard, but they have more. And I don't think we've come close to playing to the level that we can play. And that's not just me saying it as a coach. Our players, like Cole Wisniewski the other day, our safety, he said, he goes, Coach, we got so much more. We haven't even come close to how hard we can play. And so I think that's a lot of fun. I'll tell you, you said Take 3 University, and you talked about Garrett earlier. Garrett was, we were in our team meeting, and he walked out. And as he's walking out, the first 2 weeks, I think we caused 2 turnovers each game. And so he goes, I guess we're Take 2. And he was, poking at the defense. And so he kind of pissed him off a little bit. So we took 4. So it's all equaling out, to get to that Take 3.
So Garrett is essentially responsible in some way, shape, or form to the turnover production we're getting right now in Lubbock. That's huge.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's huge.
No doubt.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, I got to ask you this too, because now all the success y'all are having, I know everyone's going to be talking about Texas Tech, and there's all the outside noise building. For you, I'm sure this is probably where you expect to be, being the head coach of Texas Tech and what you've built there, but how do you keep all of the process and all of the internal stuff that you've built right now churning at the level that it's gotten to where y'all are right now?
Yeah, we started Sunday talking about handling success. We had a meeting yesterday before practice about handling success. We'll do the same thing today. But if you remember when we were at Baylor, we had all the 1-0 deals up all over the building, and it was the logo of who we were playing. Well, right now, if you come in our building, it says 1-0, and right next to 1-0, it says us. We talk all the time about, if we're the best version of ourselves, we're going to be hard to beat. And so we have to focus on an opponent because we've got a game plan for them, and we know that's, who we're playing. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who we're playing if we're playing up to our standard. And so they will hear that constantly. And at any point, I feel where we're getting complacent, then, we just rev it up. My strength staff and I just rev it up and start trying to push as many buttons as we can to piss some people off to get them going.
I love that. I'm sure there's no issue doing that. You mentioned the Baylor staff. Do you keep up with Coach Rule at all during the year?
Yeah, we usually, we were texting this morning, and we usually at least once, but usually 2 or 3 times a week, we'll either text, or we'll get on the phone. Anytime I have questions, or if there's 2 guys that I call, Jeff Traylor at UTSA and Matt Rule at Nebraska. Those are my 2 go-to guys that I trust the most. And, Coach Rule's phenomenal whenever you come to, creating culture and pushing the right buttons. So I always, call him whenever I need some help.
Yeah, you mentioned Coach Traylor and Coach Rule. Not some bad guys to have on speed dial. Well, Coach, last question. We appreciate all your time. I mentioned the background work I did before this conversation. I was told to ask about a potential trip to Italy happening or not happening. Is that still on the docket for the not too distant future? We
got to win the Big 12, man. It's Big 12 or bust. I cannot take a lot of time off. I get, we went to Hawaii and we went for 7 days, and about day 5, I was twitching, man. I was like, man, I got to get back. And, 7 days is not enough to do Italy. And so my wife, of course, she wants to go so bad. And she goes, we really need 10 days at least. And I was like, I don't have 10 days in me. I said, I'll tell you what, if we win the Big 12, then I'll take that time off. And so we got to win the Big 12. So she's always invested, but she's really invested in this year because she wants to go to Italy. We'll see if we can make it happen.
Let's go. Well, we're pulling for the trip to Italy here to become a reality. But again, thanks for all the time you took with us today, and excited to watch all the rest of the way here, Coach. Thanks again.
You bet, man. I'm proud of you. Love you, brother.